Evan drops his first official mock draft. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at EKlosky_WTSP. We are your credential members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, Evan is on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And you can check out the show every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. For that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. So, because this is the last episode that Evan will be on before the week of the draft, I was like, okay, let's have some fun on this one. Because Evan, of course, getting ready to go to the Great Down Under. And I thought it would be fun to see what he would do for the Bucs in a mock draft. And then we could check in and see what all has changed, for him once he returns. So, Evan, this is going to be a fun little exercise in deciding why you're wrong about so many of these picks and why I'm going to have to argue it on another episode because we do have a time limit here. But I'm going to kick it over.
While I'm in Australia, I will be scouting punters and kickers. So,
well, they got a punter, and
yeah, but I'm just saying you're scouting. Okay, not for the draft, all right. But I mean, we got to know what we're dealing with in the future here. Come on, James.
That is true, and avoiding all of the death traps.
Oh my God.
All right, well, what is your thought process going into the Bucs' first pick here, and then, of course, who is it that you're going to go with at pick 19?
I mean, the thought process is defense. Pretty simple. Defense. Then add some more defense, and then I'm just going to continue adding more defense. So that was my thought process. Is I understand would the Bucs like another offensive lineman? Probably, especially on the interior, probably backup center maybe type. Would they like another wide receiver? Yes. I'm not opposed to them getting any of those positions in the draft, but with what you got offensively speaking, I'm rolling into next year with it, and I can live with it not being 100% perfect. And then next year we can attack some of those other things that the team needs. But right now, the team needs 1,000% defensive depth and help. That's where my eyes are.
So you're not going in saying, I got to make sure you're more of the best player available, not drafting a specific position kind of thing. You're not going into the first going, okay, they got Haason, so I don't need an edge rusher. I have to come away at 19 with a linebacker or a corner or a safety.
Typically with the first overall pick, for the first pick for any team, my belief is getting the best player available. Now, I say that with a caveat because I don't think you should do what the Falcons have done year after year. I think they've taken that a little bit too far, a little bit too literally. But in this spot for the Buccaneers, I think that outside of, I don't want to see like a tight end selected in the first round, right? I don't want to see a running back selected in the first round, obviously a quarterback. There are certain positions that I would say, what the hell? But for the most part, if they get a really, really, really good player who fell to them, I think I'm all for that. And then maybe go a little bit more need-based on the way down.
Okay. So you're on the clock at 19. Who are some of the options that you were able to look at, and ultimately, who is it that you selected there in the first round?
Oh, see, I should have done this in live time then, if those are the questions. I forget. I did this ahead of time. I forget who was kind of there. Look, I'll tell you this right now. My selection is Donovan Ezeraku. And if he is, I will say Jahad Campbell was not on the board. So that made it a little bit easier for me in debating. But for me, I don't care about the Reddick signing. I still think you need another edge. And by the way, Mike Green was not available for me as well, if someone wants to float that name out there. I think that, Reddick is just a one-year plan. Let's hope it goes really well and he's not back next season, right? That he got a fat contract somewhere else, because that means he did some big things in Tampa Bay. But let's just say you got to build a long-term plan at that position. And I think that Ezeraku has the ability to step into that role. And him being a third banana his rookie season is probably a really good thing. And he can work behind Yaya, he can work behind Reddick, and then he can work alongside Braswell as your 3 and your 4. And all of a sudden, now that you got Braswell as your 4, that makes Braswell also more effective in his reps when he gets on the field. So now you've kind of built this depth at your worst position entering the season, which I think is a great thing and something that the Buccaneers still need very much, especially if Todd Bowles is out there saying, hey, 4-man pressure, 4-man pressure, 4-man pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the 16th ranked player on PFF's big board. He ranked 17th out of 869 edge rushers in 2024 there at Boston College. That's a big dude. Well, I say big dude, but he's actually kind of small in terms of edge rushers, 6'2", 247. But yeah, I mean, I 100% get it. Look, you're not sure what Braswell is quite yet. You're hoping he takes the step forward. You have Anthony Nelson, you have Yaya, you have Haason. But if Yaya goes down or Haason goes down, you're right back into the same problem that you had last year. So building that depth, getting a guy, in the first round that can come in and be an immediate player in a rotation, because Braswell wasn't that dude. He was a second round pick, but he wasn't an immediate guy in the rotation. You could still go out and sign Shaq Barrett for a year, but if you have Ezeraku staring you in the face, I 100% get it. It would have been a little different for me if Jahad Campbell had been there. I think personally I would have taken that, but given that Campbell was gone, given that Mike Green was gone, maybe if and shoot, I'm forgetting his name, the other linebacker from Georgia.
Michael Williams? No. Walker?
Yes. Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker? He was not available.
I was going to say, yeah, if he's sitting there, I might think about that. But I might still take Ezeraku over Jalen. I like Ezeraku as a prospect better than I like Jalen. Now I like Campbell better than I like Ezeraku. So, but like you said,
my thing with Campbell is I actually think Campbell works. He can have a really good role in that Devin White sort of linebackery position once his rookie season. I'm not like all in on Campbell like some others. I think I'm not 100% there, but I will say that in the Todd Bowles system, in the role that they would deploy him in, I can see him being a freak in that blitzing scheme and allowing Levante not to have to do so much blitzing. And then you would be able to maybe rotate Campbell and Servassier in and work some sort of gobbledygook, which would confuse teams, hopefully. So I'm not like if Campbell would be selected, I wouldn't be like, but I'm just saying that I'm a little bit lower on Campbell than others.
All right. Well, 2 picks on day 2 as Evan tries to make the Bucs a championship contender. That is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, even who's cutting down the nets. While my beloved Fighting Illini didn't make it out of the first weekend, we have narrowed it down to just 16 teams, and we've got Duke as the favorite to win the national championship at plus 220, followed by the Florida Gators at plus 430, then Auburn at plus 480, Houston at plus 550, and then Tennessee rounding out the top 5 at plus 1,600. The FanDuel app is super easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around for those winnings to show up in my account. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now that the season is over, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, round one, you attack the edge. The Bucs have Reddick, they have Yaya, and now they have Donovan Ezeraku. So where are you looking now in round two? Still need a linebacker, still need a corner, still need a safety. Might look at the defensive tackle depth. I see you as a defensive tackle on day 3 kind of guy, but where are we going with the second round pick?
Yeah, they have to burn a day 1 or day 2 pick on a cornerback this season. So I saw Savone Ravel out there, and I said, come over here. Mm-hmm. So my selection there, obviously coming off a really bad injury last season, slightly concerning, which is why I guess he drops in the second round here. But there's a lot to like about him. Hopefully he's fully healthy. I'm not privy to those details. Obviously, if I had certain medical things in front of me, might think something differently. But thinking in the best case scenario for him, saying he's fully healthy, I mean, you're getting a first round projected talent in the second round. And again, he doesn't really have to be a full-time starter year 1, right? You can ease him into action. Hopefully Jamel and Zion can hold up a little bit into the season before maybe deploying him fully. But that would be a really good position for him, that, hey, he can enter camp saying, you're the number 3. Be prepared to get into a game, but we can work you back, learn you a little bit, make sure, you have – the tough part about tearing one ACL is you worry about the other. So you got to make sure that you have full strength in both legs equally, and you're prepared for that. But I think that the ceiling is extremely high for him. And at that value, I'm going for it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's the 43rd ranked prospect there on PFF's big board. He's the 6th ranked corner on PFF's list. And look, he talked to us at the Combine about his formal meeting with the Buccaneers. He said things with Todd Bowles went really well, and they spent a lot of time breaking down his own film and talking to Todd about what he was doing, why he was doing it, things like that. And then, he also mentioned Antoine Winfield Jr. He said his relationship with the safety is crucial in his success. And so it would be great to be on a defense where he got to play with someone at Antoine Winfield Jr.'s level. And he kind of models his game after Jair Alexander, who's, he's up for trade allegedly with Green Bay. I would rather have Ravel on a rookie deal than try to trade for Jair Alexander and all the headaches that he has. So, I love that pick. He's no Benjamin Morrison, but I really love the pick. So, you've covered.
I don't remember seeing Benjamin Morrison's name. So, whether the first, second, he wasn't an option. And I will say, I saw Ravel, and I just kind of picked it fairly quickly. I didn't see any. I wanted a cornerback there. I saw him at the top. I didn't see any below him, and I said, "Yeah, this is good by me."
Oh yeah, 100%. I won't argue the pick there at all. And then of course he's also got that size that Todd Bowles loves, 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, that's a big dude. All right, so you've covered edge, you've covered corner. Where are we going in round 3 here? And with the Bucs still needing, a couple of positions on the defense. But now you're entering that territory where you're like, okay, I could go wide receiver here. There's still going to be some guys in round 4 on the defense that I can snag.
Look, it's the Buccaneers, and for some reason we don't have any Buckeyes. And so, yeah, I knew you were going to give me crap for this, but safety, Lathan Ransom as my 3rd pick at number 84. First off, a winner, coming off a national championship. He knows what it takes to reach the mountaintop. I do look in those type of players a lot. Ones who have tasted success, know what it takes to get there. 2, he is just oh my God, he is a tough hitter. I mean, to an extent, maybe, for Buccaneers fans out there, think about like first version Jordan Whitehead that you got to see. Just downhill, boom, can pop you at not a big size, but he will get in there and, I mean, he will lay the lumber. So I just love the tenacity he plays with. I think he's a heady guy, high IQ, played in a very NFL forward defense with Knowles there at Ohio State. So I think he's not going to be overwhelmed by the Todd Bowles system. Is Tyke Smith going to move into that full-time safety role? Not 100% sure, but regardless, he creates depth anyway at the position. Because let's say you have Antoine, let's say you have Tyke as your other safety, let's say you put Izzy in at your nickel. I mean, you're thin after that. So you need another safety there to probably build in. And I think that Ransom would be a fantastic addition to the team. Once again, I mean, we're looking to build depth, right? We're looking to – that's what Jason Licht always says that stands out about the Super Bowl winning team that he had years ago. And then even the team that didn't win it all, but the following year, right? Like those teams were loaded not only at the top, but at the depth positions, and that they were able to swallow some injuries. Last year, the Buccaneers were loaded at the top. But defensively, you saw the cracks. We talked about them. It was thin margins, and it blew up in their face. I mean, it's an uncontrollable. So I think Lathan Ransom would be a fantastic pick there. And once again, so now you got Ravel, you got Ransom. You've now created some really good depth in the secondary, and just kind of looking at who you got. I mean, like a cornerback, you have Jamel, Zion, Ravel, and then safety, you're kind of looking at Antoine Tyke, Christian Izzian, Ransom, Merriweather. And then you've got like Funderburk there is kind of an option probably. Kindle Vildor. So I still think that you probably need another secondary piece. This is probably a pick where I'm pretty amenable to it in the process. If there was someone else that I really liked out there, I wasn't sold on what position I wanted there. I was actually an open mind, and I went with the best player available because I didn't really love the options on the table. And I was still thinking, to your credit, that I would be able to find a defensive lineman in the trenches a little bit later in the draft. I didn't have to necessarily take one right then and there.
Yeah, Ransom's the 5th ranked safety on PFF. And what's funny is the guy that I took in my mock yesterday is the 6th ranked safety, and they are back-to-back in overall rank. Ransom is 94. I took Andrew Makuba, and he is ranked at 95.
I like him a lot too.
And he's more that ball hawk dude.
I was going to say the thing that goes for him is he's the ball hawk guy. So I totally understand that. And I'm not sure if he was available for me. I don't remember seeing him. But like the ball hawk thing, that's what I love about him. Big. If that's where you're going with it, I say 100% see it.
All right. Well, Evan has 3 picks to go in his mock draft. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Red. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP mock draft edition of Locked On Bucs. 3 picks down, 3 to go. Evan, there's still plenty of impact players here available in the 4th round. What direction are you going in?
All right, it's time to get linebacker, right? We need one. Chris Paul Jr.
Making me sweat a little bit on that.
Yeah, Chris Paul Jr. is my linebacker selection. Athletically gifted, love what he can do in coverage. I think that he can be right there with Servassier, plug and play, figure that out. And fills an obvious need there. But around this 121 pick, I think that's kind of linebackers aren't typically drafted that high. I mean, we did talk about Campbell and some others who have that sort of ceiling. But overall, what I've been reading from some highly reputable people out there in the NFL scouting circles, to hit on a linebacker is very tough. So it seems a little bit like running back, to where picking a running back in a premium selection doesn't necessarily yield all these amazing results versus what you can probably get a little bit later. So I think Chris Paul is an amazing talent to get there at 121.
Yeah, I honestly, I'd be shocked if he falls all the way to 121. He finished 18th out of 810 linebackers last season, according to PFF. He's their 75th ranked player. So the guy that you got in the 4th is actually 21 spots ahead of the guy that you got in the 3rd in terms of their overall big board. But this is a name that I brought up quite a bit. I always kind of lean towards Jeffrey Bossa. Just because
love him too.
Yeah, when I've been taking linebackers, Paul's usually been gone, but Bossa's been the dude that's been there. But no, I love that pick.
I can't control what names pop up in front of me.
Right. Oh, I know. And Jason's not going to be able to control the names that pop up in front of him on draft weekend, which we're like 4 weeks away now. So edge, corner, safety, linebacker. You're at pick 153 there in the 5th round. What are we doing, Evan?
I'm going back to linebacker. Let's just keep building the depth there. And a guy that I like, I think he checks a lot of boxes, Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. You want to talk about like leader type? That's this dude. And to a degree, maybe a little bit a la KJ Britt when he was drafted. Just someone who productive in college, maybe not the most athletic, jumping off the page type, but should come in, be able to contribute on special teams. I imagine he's going to be a leader on and off the field. I like this dude. I like Carson Brunner as well. I didn't see him at all to draft him, but I kind of like those dudes who rack up the tackles at college and are able to sniff out the runs and get their nose dirty and have those double-digit tackle. To me, it just shows me you're built for it. You're built to get your nose dirty, and I think Stutzman, Oklahoma guy. We got a handful of Oklahoma guys in the locker room. I'm sure Sterling Shepard and Baker Mayfield will treat him nicely.
Boomer Sooner for sure. Insider Scotty J is going to be super hyped that you brought him up because he's been after me. He's like, you need to look at Stutzman. You need to look at Stutzman. I'm not a big fan. I'll be completely honest. I think there are other linebackers that I would prefer over Stutzman that are around.
And remember, special teamer.
Yeah, that is true. My issue's the coverage. He's
not a coverage guy.
Are bad.
Yeah, but I would view him the way I take him as sort of that backup to Levante, right?
Okay.
If I got him in games, right, I have Servassier. In my draft, I also have Chris Paul Jr. Right. I have people who can do the coverage stuff. I need someone who I can believe is going to be out there and sniff the run out and keep that boat afloat. And I think that he's able to do that. So, no, I don't. Again, this is a 5th-round selection, special teamers, and I think he's limited in role. But with the role that I have projected for him, I think he fits perfectly into what the Bucs would need from that person, and he doesn't have to do the coverage stuff. That's not what I'm signing him up for. I hopefully have that covered with my other two selections. And, they brought in Anthony Walker as well. That's another guy who I think can do the coverage stuff and who might be the choice anyway over Stutzman if Levante goes down. So, we have options. That's the whole point, though. We need to build that linebacker room.
All right. And then you got one pick left. We missed the 6th round. We're moving all the way to the 7th round. And again, looking for depth, looking for special teams contributions, looking for a dude that could work his way onto the roster and potentially get some meaningful snaps. Are we going to have a clean defensive sweep, or are we going offense with the last pick? Clean defensive sweep. What do we got?
Ahmed Haason out of Boise State. I have watched a lot of Boise State games. I mean, obviously this was a playoff team. So, I love their defense. My wife went to Washington State and was able to watch Boise State, and that I watch these West Coast games all the time. And he jumped off the page in so many of these games, was just very disruptive in the trenches. And, maybe a little bit on the small end for what the NFL is going to produce. I am confident that the training staff will be able to beef him up a bit and maybe turn him into sort of that William Golston type of role. Not someone who I'm expecting to play a significant amount of snaps, but someone who can step in there, play a handful of them, and do what he's got to do. But I like him.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about somebody who finished as the 67th overall edge rusher in 2024, according to PFF. It's a great get. And again, you're looking for depth. You're looking for guys that can come in. In the 7th round, it's a dart throw. So, there's going to be guys that go undrafted that are going to end up making rosters.
And I want to beef him up. I want to put more weight on him.
Yeah, 100%. So, I got no problems with it. The only problem that I have with your draft here, no Illini, no Fighting Irish. It's upsetting. It's offensive.
I was looking to try to get your boy Xavier Watts, but he was not available.
He's a lot of fun. If they were going to take an Illinois receiver, I would prefer it be Pat Bryant. But
I like him as well.
The need for Pat is there with Godwin coming back. But that's neither here nor there. So here is the first Evan Klosky mock draft before he goes on vacation. Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher. Siobhan Ravel, cornerback. Lathan Ransom, safety. Chris Paul Jr., linebacker. Danny Stutzman, linebacker. And Ahmed Haason, edge rusher. Clean sweep for the defense. So now the question is to put a nice, tidy little bow on here. What is the biggest need that the Bucs would still have if this was their draft haul that would basically send Jason Licht back to the free agent pool before we get to training camp?
Another wide receiver, I think. I think they would also get an undrafted running back to bring in. It's such a stacked running back class. I'm really not worried about that. I think you can get someone undrafted, and I would do the Sean Tucker thing and pay a little money to make it happen. Maybe if there's an undrafted wide receiver, I would take that. Might be the priority over running back with some of the limited money you have to pay. But I think those, I think number one would be try to find a wide receiver who can stretch the field and maybe be a punt returner, kick returner to go toe-to-toe with Trey Palmer for his job come training camp. Because it seems like Palmer has fallen out of favor with the coaching staff, didn't really light up the return numbers one way or the other. And, I don't know what Grizzard is going to do with his vertical game, but it was obvious that Liam Cohen didn't need the vertical threat like maybe a Dave Canales did. So, it could be a little bit of a square peg, round hole sort of deal. If that's not the way that they want to go, it just, they got Trey to fit the Dave Canales system, and it's very possible that he just doesn't fit what they're cooking up moving forward now.
All right, and then last one for you before I let you go on your fantastic voyage. You can just say yes or no. Are you team trade back?
Depending on what it is, yeah, I would be totally cool with it. But if it's to pass up on an Ezraku, I don't know if I would be. We'll see. But I would actually think that this is a pretty good draft to maybe sacrifice that first pick, get a couple other ones to build out your depth, and then maybe we can get that wide receiver we talked about, and maybe we can get another cornerback. So certainly would not hate it. I'm not like, yeah, they should definitely do it. I think there needs to be context, but I'm certainly very open to it.
All right. Evan, what do we have going on over at 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app?
Yeah, busy stretch here. Rays opening day Friday, sold out Steinbrenner Field. Can't wait to be there for that. We got the women's Final Four coming up next week. I will be on a plane for Australia, but David Shealy will be covering that as well. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning are also fighting for that top spot in the Atlantic Division. They were only, as of this current recording, 4 points out of that spot. They have a game in hand. So it's going to come down to the bitter end. We're going to cover that up, and it'll be probably around this time next month that those playoffs are underway, along with the NFL draft. So just stick it with us. 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, our 10 Tampa Bay Plus streaming app, Fire Stick, Roku, all that stuff, and at eKlosky WTSP.
All right, yeah, and let us know in the comments and on Twitter what you thought of Evan's mock draft. I'm sure he would love to hear from each and every one of you. Again, you can do so on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eKlosky WTSP. Make sure you are following along on YouTube with those notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.